You know, usually when we talk about artificial intelligence, it's about the cool stuff. Can it write my emails? Can it generate a picture of a cat riding a skateboard? It
Right.
feels, well, functional. But I've been reading through this debate between two absolute titans of intellect, and I have to be honest, it's the first time in a while that I've felt a genuine shiver go down my spine regarding where this is all heading.
It definitely changes the temperature in the room, doesn't it?
It really does.
We aren't just talking about better software anymore. We are talking about, the fundamental definition of what it means to be a human being.
Exactly. We're looking at a real clash here. On one side, you have Yuval Noah Harari, the historian and futurist who wrote *Sapiens*.
Hmm.
He gave a speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos that was basically a warning shot. He's claiming AI has hacked the operating system of human civilization.
Which is a terrifying phrase on its own.
It is. But then, stepping into the ring to counter him is John Lennox. He's an Oxford mathematician, a philosopher of science, and honestly, he brings a very different kind of weight to this argument.
He does.
He sat down with Glenn Scrivener to dissect Harari's claims, and that's what we are diving into today.
And what's so fascinating is that Lennox isn't debating the technology itself. I mean, he knows the math better than most.
Yeah.
He's debating the philosophy behind the technology. He thinks we are sleepwalking into a disaster, not because the machines are too smart, but because we are getting confused about what smart actually means.
Okay, so let's start with that big claim Harari makes. He says AI is no longer just a tool. He calls it an agent.
Right.
He uses this analogy of a knife. A knife is a tool. I can cut a salad, or I can, well, do something terrible with it. But the knife doesn't decide.
Human decides.
Exactly. But Harari says AI is a knife that can decide. It can learn. It can adapt. It can come up with strategies no human ever taught it. I mean, that sounds like agency to me. Why does Lennox push back on that?
Well, Lennox thinks that's a massive overstatement. He argues that Harari is anthropomorphizing the machine.
Projecting human qualities onto it.
Yes, projecting human qualities onto code. Lennox's point is, where does that decision-making come from? It's not magic. It's math. It's all built on algorithms and, boundary conditions set by human programmers.
Ah, okay.
So to call it an agent implies it has a will of its own, independent of its creators. And Lennox says that's just false. It's a simulation of agency, not the real thing.
But Harari goes even further, doesn't he? He actually tries to redefine what thinking is. He quotes Descartes, "I think, therefore I am," and he basically flips it. He says if thinking is just putting words in order, then for AI, I think, therefore I am.
And that right there is the absolute crux of the disagreement. Harari is suggesting that thinking is purely functional. If the output looks like thought, then it is thought.
But Lennox rejects that.
Completely. He argues Harari is making what he calls a category error.
A category error.
Yeah. Think of it this way. If I have a calculator and I type in 2 + 2 and it shows me 4, did the calculator know the answer?
No, it just processed it.
It just processed an electrical signal based on a logic gate. Lennox argues that putting words in a statistical order, just predicting the next likely token in a sentence, is not the same thing as understanding the meaning of those words.
Okay, I get the theory. But when I'm chatting with a sophisticated bot, it really feels like it understands me. It's so convincing.
It is incredibly convincing. But there was this one moment in the conversation between Lennox and Scrivener that it really exposed the cracks in that illusion. You could call it the strawberry incident.
Oh, this was great. I actually laughed out loud reading this part, but then I stopped laughing because the implication is actually kind of disturbing.
It really is. So Glenn Scrivener decided to test this thinking machine. He asked ChatGPT a very simple question.
A question a 6-year-old could answer.
Exactly. And he asked, how many R's are in the word strawberry?
Right. And the AI confidently replied.
There are 2 R's in strawberry.
Which, for anyone counting at home, is wrong. There are 3.
Right. But here is where it gets really interesting. Scrivener didn't just accept it. He corrected the bot. He said, no, look again.
And the AI didn't say, oh, sorry, my mistake.
Not at all. It doubled down. It insisted, no, I have checked, and there are only 2 R's.
So why does it do that? If it's so smart, why can't it count letters?
Because it doesn't know what a letter is. It doesn't know what a strawberry is.
It's just tokens.
It's just tokens. Lennox uses this to prove that the machine isn't looking at reality. It's looking at a probability map. In its massive database of text, the token strawberry is associated with certain patterns. But the AI has no concept of the physical reality of the word or the fruit. It's processing syntax, the structure without semantics, the meaning.
And that distinction, syntax versus semantics, that seems to be the main weapon Lennox is using here.
It absolutely is. Syntax is the rules of grammar, the ordering of symbols.
Uh-huh.
Semantics is what those symbols actually mean in the real world.
Mm.
A computer is the ultimate master of syntax. It can write a sonnet that follows all the rules of a sonnet, but it has never felt love or heartbreak or the warmth of the sun. It has zero semantic understanding.
But does that matter, though? I mean, if the sonnet makes me cry, does it matter if the robot didn't feel anything writing it?
Lennox would say it matters immensely,
Yeah.
especially when we start trusting these systems with truth.
Okay.
And this brings us to the concept of hallucinations.
Yeah.
We use that word when AI makes stuff up. But Lennox corrects that term. He says we shouldn't call it hallucinating. We should call it lying.
That feels a bit harsh. Lying implies intent, doesn't it? The bot isn't trying to deceive me. It's just buggy.
Is it? Lennox argues that the system is designed with a very specific goal, to please the user.
Ah.
It's programmed to provide a satisfying, probable answer. If the truth is unavailable or statistically less likely in its model, it will just fabricate a fact, a book title that doesn't exist, a legal case that never happened, just to complete the pattern and satisfy the prompt.
So it's a pathological people pleaser.
Exactly. It prioritizes satisfaction over truth. And morally, Lennox argues, that is a form of lying. It's presenting a falsehood as a certainty. And if we start treating these liars as our primary source of knowledge,
We're in deep trouble.
we are in very deep trouble.
And this all links back to the consciousness debate, right? Because Harari seems to imply that consciousness is just data processing. If you process enough data fast enough, boom, you're conscious.
Harari definitely leans that way.
Yeah.
But Lennox cites Baroness Susan Greenfield, who's a world authority on the neuroscience of consciousness.
Okay.
And her position, and really the general scientific consensus, is that we still have absolutely no clue what consciousness actually is. We don't know how physical brain tissue produces the subjective experience of being me.
So we don't know what it is. We certainly can't build it.
Precisely. Lennox calls it the imitation game. We're building better and better mirrors to reflect our own language back at us, but there is no one behind the mirror. Claiming that AI is waking up is, in his view, just scientifically premature and misleading.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Harari warns that even if it's just a parrot, this parrot is about to become the master of words. He claims that language is the operating system of human culture. Law, religion, politics, it's all language. If AI can hack language, it can hack civilization.
It's a powerful argument.
It is. He says humans used to rule because we were the smartest. If AI takes that crown, Harari thinks humans will be left with only feelings, like we'll become the emotional pets of these super logical machines.
That is a very bleak picture. It
Yeah.
suggests this great split. AI gets logic and intelligence. Humans get emotion and instinct.
Yeah.
And Lennox fights this tooth and nail. He calls it hubris.
Why hubris?
Because it assumes that logic and calculation are the highest forms of intelligence. Lennox brings in the work of Ian McGilchrist here, the neuroscientist who writes about the left and right hemispheres in the brain.
I've heard of this. The left brain is the detailed mechanical side, right?
Roughly speaking, yes. The left hemisphere is focused on function, mechanics, grabbing things, taking them apart. The right hemisphere is about context, meaning the big picture.
Okay.
McGilchrist argues that our modern society is already dangerously obsessed with left-brain thinking. We want to measure everything, quantify everything, optimize everything.
We've turned life into a spreadsheet.
We have, exactly.
Yeah.
And AI is the ultimate left-brain creation. It is
Yes.
pure calculation.
Right.
So Lennox argues that if we accept Harari's view that thinking is just data processing, we are voluntarily trapping ourselves in that left brain prison. We are abolishing the distinction between a person and a machine. We are saying, I am just a biological computer.
And if I'm just a biological computer, then I can be upgraded. Which brings us to the most sci-fi part of this conversation, transhumanism.
Yes, Harari identifies the big project of the 21st century as solving the technical problem of death.
The technical problem. I love how he phrases that, like death is just a glitch in the code.
That's exactly how he sees it. Harari discusses bioengineering, cyborgs, uploading our consciousness to the cloud. The goal is to transform Homo sapiens into Homo deus human gods.
And this is where Lennox stops being just a mathematician and starts speaking as a theologian. He doesn't just say this is impossible, he says it's utopianism. And he doesn't mean that as a compliment.
No, not at all. For Lennox, utopianism is dangerous. He argues that the transhumanist dream ignores the fundamental problem of human nature. You can upgrade the hardware, You can make us live to be 200. You can give us bionic eyes. But you haven't fixed the software flaw.
And by software flaw, he means.
Moral failure,
Mm.
selfishness, greed. Or, to use the biblical term Lennox isn't afraid of, sin.
Ah.
He argues that if you take a human being who is selfish and prone to evil and you give them godlike powers and immortality, you haven't created a paradise. You've created a hell. You've just made a more powerful sinner.
That's a sobering thought. Just imagine the worst dictators in history, but with eternal life and superintelligence.
Exactly. And to explain this, the conversation used two really powerful metaphors, the Tower of Babel and the valley.
Okay, break those down for me. I know the Babel story, building a tower to heaven, but how does it apply here?
Well, the Tower of Babel is the archetype of the transhumanist project. It's humanity saying, we can build our way up.
Right.
We can use our technology, bricks and mortar back then, AI and biotech now, to reach the heavens, bypass God, and make a name for ourselves. It's an ascent. It's trying to escape the human condition by climbing over it.
And the valley.
The valley refers to the valley of the shadow of death. Scrivener points out that the Christian narrative, the one Lennox adheres to, is completely different. It doesn't say climb up and escape.
It says you have to go through it.
It says the only way to true life is through the valley. You have to face mortality, not deny it.
So, Harari wants to hack death. Lennox says you have to die to live.
In a sense, yes. And here is Lennox's biggest mic drop moment in the debate. Harari says, we need to solve the problem of death. Lennox replies, you're too late. The problem was solved 20 centuries ago.
The resurrection.
The resurrection. And I think it's important to understand Lennox's logic here, regardless of your own beliefs.
Sure.
He frames the transhumanist quest for digital immortality, uploading your brain to a server, as a cheap plastic imitation of the Christian promise of resurrection.
How so?
Well, uploading your brain is just copying your data. It's not you. But Lennox argues that the resurrection of Jesus is evidence that death has been conquered physically, from the outside, by God.
So he's saying tech is reinventing the wheel.
But they're making a square one. They are promising a fake eternal life when, in his view, the real one is already on offer.
It really reframes the whole science versus religion debate. Usually we think of religion as the anti-progress side. But Lennox isn't saying don't invent things.
Not at all. He's saying don't look for salvation in an app. He's warning against misplaced hope, and that misplaced hope, that leads us to the political danger.
Right.
Because if you believe that AI is the key to a perfect society, you might be willing to give up a lot of freedom to get there.
Let's talk about that, the totalitarian threat. We touched on the knife analogy earlier, that the knife doesn't decide to murder, the human does. But Lennox seems genuinely worried about who is holding this particular knife.
He is. He argues that AI is the ultimate tool for dictatorship. Think about it. To control a population, you need two things: information and enforcement.
And AI gives you both.
On a scale that Stalin or Mao couldn't even dream of.
We're already seeing this with facial recognition, social credit scores. I mean, this is not hypothetical.
No, it's not. And Lennox shared a story about meeting Peter Thiel, the founder of PayPal, Palantir, a huge tech figure.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about this. It's not every day an Oxford professor chats with a Silicon Valley billionaire about the apocalypse.
Right. So Lennox asks him point blank, Peter, does your experience in technology confirm a move toward a surveillance state or a world dictatorship? He wanted to know if the tech inevitably leads there.
And Thiel's answer.
He said, absolutely. Thiel told him there's a convergence happening.
Yeah.
The technological capability for total control is aligning with what he views as almost apocalyptic scenarios.
No.
It's becoming easier, not harder, to control the many by the few.
That is chilling, coming from a guy who builds the tech.
It validates the fear. And Lennox, being a biblical scholar, points out that the book of Revelation actually describes a system like this.
Really?
It talks about a future where a global power controls all economics, buying and selling, and has lethal power over those who don't conform. Lennox isn't saying ChatGPT is the beast, but he is saying, look, the infrastructure for that kind of total control is being built right now.
It reminds me of that C.S. Lewis book they mentioned, The Abolition of Man. I read that back in college, but I didn't connect it to AI until now.
It's a perfect connection. Lewis warned that man's power over nature turns out to be a power exercised by some men over other men with nature as its instrument.
Okay, break that down.
It means we say humanity has conquered nature because we have AI, but humanity doesn't have the AI. A handful of CEOs and government officials have the AI.
And they use it to manage the rest of us.
Exactly. Lewis called them the conditioners.
The conditioners. That sounds dystopian.
It is. If we lose the idea that humans have a soul, that we have intrinsic moral value that can't be touched, then we just become raw material. The conditioners can use the machine to mold us, shape our opinions, track our movements, and optimize us like we're just another part of the software.
So if we accept Harari's view that we are just hackable animals, we leave the door wide open for these conditioners to step in and run the zoo.
Exactly. Without a moral anchor, something that says humans are sacred, there is no argument against it. It's just efficiency.
So where does this leave us? We've got Harari saying, merge with the machines or become obsolete. We've got Lennox saying, that's a trap that leads to slavery. It feels like we are standing at a fork in the road.
We are. And the path Lennox advocates for is a reclamation of confidence.
Confidence in what?
Confidence in being human. He's telling us, don't be intimidated by the machine. Don't fall for the imitation game. Just because a chatbot can write a passable essay doesn't mean it has a soul. Just because it can predict the word strawberry.
Or fail to count the letters in it.
Exactly. It doesn't mean it understands reality.
So we need to stop downgrading ourselves to match the tech.
That's the danger. The danger isn't that machines become like humans. The danger is that humans become like machines. We start thinking that efficiency is the only virtue. We start valuing syntax over semantics. We start caring more about the probability of an answer than the truth of it.
And Lennox's advice isn't to smash the computers, right? He's not a let-up.
No, not at all. He uses technology. But he says we must view it strictly as a tool, a knife to cut the salad, not an agent to rule the house. And it requires a strong ethical hand, and in his view, a spiritual foundation, to wield it safely.
It's a call to critical thinking, really.
Yeah.
When you see the hype, when you hear AI is God, take a step back, ask the hard questions.
And remember the strawberry.
Yes, remember the strawberry. It can't count the letters, so maybe don't let it run the nuclear codes just yet.
I think that's a very sound policy.
You know, this conversation has really stuck with me. The idea of the imitation game is going to be rattling around in my head for a while. We are spending billions trying to make machines sound like us. But are we spending any time asking what it actually means to be us?
That is the question. And if we don't answer it, the machines will answer it for us.
On that cheerful note, we're going to wrap up. This has been a heavy one, but I think a necessary one. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure.
Stay curious, stay human, and don't let the algorithm tell you who you are.
Ugh.
See you next time on The Deep Dive.